Yeah.
Hello, we are joining you from across Europe this evening. I'm Shona, I'm a storyteller, and I've been part of the organising team of the Cassandra project, which is a groundbreaking project supporting young storytellers, the next generation of storytellers, you might say, to develop in their artistic practice and to create new performances. And I'm joined tonight by some of the incredible storytellers that are on the programme. Would you like to introduce yourselves?
Hi. I'm Smora and I'm from the Netherlands, Amsterdam to be precise. And I'm one of the storytellers, the lucky storytellers. And my story is about mental illness, depression. Mine is about my own depression, and I made it into a folktale. And it's about a girl who gets stuck in a nightmare and wants to get out, but can't find her way out. And one of the images that is very clear is that the monster that keeps her in the world plays her like a puppeteer.
Mm,
So yeah, that's a bit of my story.
thank you.
Hello, my name is Hannah. I'm in right now. I'm in Oslo, Norway, which is also where I live. One of the Norwegian participants in the Cassandra project. Um, and my story is about displacement and war, destruction, but also finding hope in all of that chaos. And an image I want people to kind of bring with them when they leave the space of my story is there's like flowers growing in between frosty old war tanks.
Oh, thank you. Who's next?
Hi, I'm Jeffrey van der Ven. I am from the Netherlands. And my story is the result of an investigation into queer shame, and it resulted in a story of Nictamine turning into an owl and eventually transforming into the ugly duckling to learn her lesson. And I think an image that sticks out to everyone is Nictamine as a duckling hopping into the pond and swimming over to some swans.
Hi, my name is Meja Olson Rodriguez, and I'm a Swedish storyteller, and I'm right now in my home in Växjö. My story is about finding your identity and answers through stories from relatives and family. And one of the images through my story is a lot of people around a dinner table.
Oh, yeah. And we've just been joined by Dan too. Dan, oh, well, you could introduce yourself properly. And can you tell us where you are and a little bit about your piece? And sorry, my dog's been very noisy in the background.
Hi there. My name is Dan, and I can't hear anything from your dogs. Don't worry. Um,
Good.
I live in Amsterdam at the moment. I am in my living room, and I made a story about finding love. A couple of years ago, I went on a journey, which was in the online world, and it didn't have a lot of princes there. Well, there was one, but I guess there was no other. And the story has many ups and downs. It's a story about a quest for love where nothing seems to be about love. So it's a journey. It's a journey, guys.
It's a journey. And is there an image from your story that really jumps out? For me, it was you doing a ninja high kick to as a horse.
I was going to say the same. Yeah. Yeah. Or when the horse attacks the hunt, I
Yeah.
guess. Yeah, that one, I guess.
So the young storytellers, young in this age bracket is between 18 and 30, have all just performed in Amsterdam in November. So we're quite fresh from that performance. It was really incredible and yeah, a huge range of ideas and skills and sort of tones of pieces, and all really exciting when it comes to thinking about the future of this art form. But I've got a question to you all, and this is something that we discussed and probably didn't find a solution to during our time together in the first part of the project. But what is storytelling? Like, what does that mean? Does,
Here we
Jeffrey's
go.
sleeping. Does anyone want to say a little bit about that?
If I can hop in on it from me and my spoken word background, and like when I say spoken word, I go back to poetry and campfires, and it started with a way of transferring knowledge. And I don't think that we've departed much from that idea of using words orally to transfer any form of knowledge, whether it's an old wisdom or a new tale or a personal story.
Yeah.
I'd also like to add to that. So for me, there's like two different understandings of storytelling, and they often also like melt in with each other.
Yeah.
But one of the understandings I have is just storytelling as a way of communication, which is something everyone does all the time, both like in terms of body language, words, stories. Yeah, we do storytelling all the time. And the other understanding is storytelling as a craft, craftsmanship. Yeah.
Does it have any differences to other art forms like theatre or poetry?
Depends on who you ask, I guess.
Yeah. What do you
Yeah,
think, Samora?
I think it's quite minimal and you can do it at every time with nothing, just yourself. And I think that's the most magical thing about it. You can just create it in the space you are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For me as well, there's something about it taking you into a different place. I feel like poetry makes me think about my like right now better. It's like an experience of the real world, whereas storytelling takes you to a different world or a different time, or it's almost like the other. It shows us the other, whereas poetry shows us ourselves. I don't know. What do you like? I know there's poets here. What do you think about that?
I I like this distinction. I think it works in like, of course, there's the exceptions that prove the rule, but
Of
I do
course,
think
yeah.
that it counts for a lot of specifically classical poetry.
Mm.
Um, and then I think that if you tap into spoken word, if you draw it as a spectrum, where you have classical poetry on one side and storytelling on the other side, spoken word has always been somewhere in the middle. So if you take the older versions where spoken word does talk more about tales or somebody else's experience, or it talks more about, if you read now like activistic spoken word from the 80s, it does take you to a place a bit more and is a bit more story based rather than literary device based and based on literary devices. Being very poetic with my sentences here. But yeah, but I guess the answer is yes. And then there's a distinction, I guess, separately from what you said in spoken word, that it's a bit more skewed towards storytelling on the spectrum, in my experience.
Okay, interesting. When you guys, some of you have been storytellers for a while. Maya, I know you have considered yourself a storyteller for a while, but some of you, this is quite new, and you've dipped into the storytelling world. This is quite a big question, but what do you see are the kind of limitations in the storytelling world as it is, and what are the possibilities? That's a big question, but does anybody have a sense of that?
Yes, I think that in some way the audience is maybe limiting in some parts. The the fact that it is like considered a more dying craft or something, that this organization. Oh,
Oh, that was going to be great. Dan's just
Oh no.
disappeared. I feel like he was going to say something amazing.
Cliffhanger.
Yeah, cliffhanger. I do.
I can add something
Oh,
in a
please,
moment if
yeah,
you want.
go for it, Samora.
I was listening to a podcast with Claire Murphy in it
Yeah.
today. I'm not working podcast, I think. I'm not sure. I have to check. But she was telling that we in Europe and these countries are silent audience, but there are countries as well that is like cheering and talking while performing because it's part of the experience. So they cheer the main characters or discuss what they have to do next. So it's way more together. And I think that's the difference with storytelling and theater as well, that the fourth wall is not there. So you're doing it already together. And while I was listening to this podcast this afternoon, I thought it was quite nice that they were so included in the telling as well. Because when I'm telling for kids, it's something that I have to do as well to keep them with me even more. You don't need it, but it makes it more fun with kids, especially. But I think it could be nice with adults as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. And I tell stories a lot to adults who might not have a like experience going to the theatre in my home city in Glasgow. And because they don't have those conventions of needing to sitting down and being quiet, they're not. And they'll just jump into the story and say, that happened to me, or yeah, this makes me think about a time that my neighbor annoyed me or whatever. And they just add to the story. And for me, that's a big difference. You are what we say is like co-creating with your audience, which is absolutely magical when
Yeah,
it
it was
works.
quite funny because last week I was performing on a festival about death, the team death, and I
Okay.
was asked to make a performance for kids, so I did it. But there were only two kids, and the rest of the room, like 30 other people, were like elderly people, like really
Mm.
elderly. And I asked Aryan, my boss, like, what do you want me to do? Do you want me to improvise to make it more for adults? And he was like, yeah, you can try. But I felt in the moment that I did it a bit, but it was not like possible to change it all the way, you know? So I still kept the interactions in there, but it worked so well, the elderly people as well. So I think we still see storytelling sometimes a bit more like theater, where you have to keep silence and sit on your chair, than it maybe has to be. I don't
Yeah.
know if I'm adding something to your question.
No, no, and
Just popped in my head.
yeah. And I think it's about the spaces you create as the teller and what you're communicating to the audience, what you need from them in that moment. And there's Dan back again. uh, so you were saying, Dan, that there's maybe a kind of like sense that the art form is, I I wouldn't say it's dying, but definitely know where you're coming from. It's not thriving, perhaps, and it's certainly not a young art form.
Well, as we look at it in Belgium, it's more like the people that are coming to the shows are getting older and older.
Mm.
And so finding new young people to join the project and join the art form is getting harder and harder. So I feel that in some ways, the fact that there is not really an outreach of the arts for young people until now was pretty limiting because the audience is used to one thing, but then having young people in it is a whole new wave of inspiration and performances that are going your way. So it's actually just about broadening the spectrum of the audience and like finding new ways to also develop the art form. I feel like because it can go a lot of ways, a lot of different ways, but um, I feel, in my personal opinion, that in some lanes we are stuck a little bit.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, in when I talk to some people, it's hard to for them to imagine a storytelling performance which uses a screen to project new ideas upon, to project a part of the story on. And I feel like contributing the new aspects of new that the new young storytellers are bringing would also appeal to more people.
But would it change what storytelling is as a provocation? I don't know. Maya, what do you think about that? What do you think the role of tradition has in this art form?
Well, it's very difficult to say because every country has their own tradition in
Mm.
storytelling. It's very individual. But I know in Sweden we're not the biggest community. It's almost the same people in the whole country that do, are doing storytelling. Um, so it's quite limited on how many people you can reach. But we are also struggling with getting young people to be in the audience and get involved with storytelling, because we have over here we have the stamp on storytelling that it's just for kids. It's fairy tales. And so we're having a lot of older people that's not, no, it's not, it's fantastic, but it's hard to get the young people to understand that it's not just for kids. Because here the tradition is that storytelling was created to warn people about the stuff that was dangerous, and also to entertain, because as you can see outside, it's quite dark over here.
Yeah,
at
it
an
really
early
can,
time of the day. So when you can't be outside working or doing stuff, you're sitting in your little house with not much to do, and then you tell stories. And so there were scary stories for adults and warning words to learn from. And later on, they were adapted to entertain and warn kids as well.
So in Sweden, you feel like it's more, people feel like it's more for children, and Dan, you feel like it's almost more for an older audience. In Belgium, in Amsterdam, that's really interesting.
Well,
Oh, go for
there
it.
is, yeah, no, there's also a part that is for little kids, but I feel like after the age of 8, it's getting lost for
Yeah.
50 years or something like that. It's
Mm,
really a big jump. It's a big jump.
mm. And what do you guys wish that people more your age knew about storytelling, or what do you think we need to do to get to make it feel more relevant? Not
I
just
think
feel,
there's
really be. Sorry, Jeffrey.
no. I think there's this how do you say that? There's a certain aspect of gatekeeping that's happening, not
Okay.
by storytellers, but more access to venues and locations. So I, for example, am one of the people who stepped into this world anew and was like, oh my God, I forgot about this magical thing that happens that I used to experience as a kid where people told you stories.
Yeah.
And I think that there's a massive public that would actually really enjoy this art form, but that's not managing to come in contact with it, because when you go to a theater venue, they go, oh, but it's not theater enough. And when you go to another festival, they're like, yeah, but like, it's just you talking.
Yeah.
So then you end up with these very specific storytelling festivals that already have an audience that indeed is aging. So it's not finding its way to people. And I think it's requiring two things. I think it requires us as storytellers to be innovative with how we produce our stories, how we bring them to the world, and what we can do to attract them or bring them into spaces where they aren't. And it requires programmers of established venues to, I guess, maybe less open their eyes, because I think it's arrogant to assume that they're the ones who are going to change. But I think we need to pull them into the world a bit more and show them, like, hey, this is what it is, and this is the power. Come along to this festival with me, and like massage storytelling into them and see if they will slowly open up their eyes to this art form.
Yeah. I remember in Scotland there's very few younger storytellers, and I remember going to a screenwriting workshop, and it was like an open thing that our national TV studio did, just invited people to come along, and it was full of young people that all called themselves storytellers. So I don't know, Hannah, what do you think about like the cross art form? Yeah, like the role of storytelling, or the way that we call other, like in film, we use the word storytelling a lot. And does that feel resonant and relevant? Because I know you've got a wider discipline in your art practice.
Yeah, I mean, it's not wrong, is it? It's storytelling, it's telling a story. And filmmakers do that, poets do that, writers do that, dancers do that. Like in every discipline of art, there's some element of telling a story or sharing a story, sharing something. And for some, it's more explicit, for screenwriters, for writers. You know, it's yeah. So that's also what I mean when I'm saying like the two different aspects of storytelling, or my understandings of storytelling, and storytelling being a way of communication, and storytelling as its own craft. And I believe like when we're talking about the struggles of like storytelling arenas, or we're talking about like the traditional craft, and perhaps and yeah, I'm quite comfortable saying that in some places it's been quite like gate kept. It's yeah. And we could talk about that like for ages, because it will be a different story in every different place, and some of them might be quite similar. Um, but yeah, also just in the definition of like storytelling, like who are allowed to call themselves storytellers and who are not. There's also like something interesting happening there.
Definitely.
But yeah, I'm not quite sure how to reply, but
Yeah.
I mean, it's not wrong. Everyone, I believe everyone is a storyteller. Like when I share something that happened just a few hours ago with my friend on the telephone, I'm telling a story that is also storytelling. But when we're talking about the craft or like on the stage without like the fourth wall, that might be something different. But there are so many ways of doing that, and I think all art disciplines have like something to learn from each other. That's
Yeah.
what I found fun and interesting. That's also why I became interested in this craft, to see what it could add to the things I'm already doing, or what I'm already doing might add to the storytelling identity as well. Like, yeah, everything is connected.
Everything is connected. I totally agree. And I feel like sometimes people get scared and think if somebody's experimental and introducing tech like screens, like you were saying, Dan, then somehow that diminishes the traditional part of it, or that undermines the people that are choosing to go down a more traditional, like tradition bearing route. And for me, it can be all those things. And we need a variety, and we need like a spectrum of color in the art form. We need people that are exploring things. We need people that are preserving things. And so there's space for it all, in my opinion. Uh, so my last question, this has been a very interesting conversation, is what do you, well, actually two questions, and maybe we could go in order again. Uh, is there any shining memories, shining moments from the project so far that really jump out at you, or any conversations that you keep thinking about? I know our chat with Claire Murphy in Alden Beeson has really stuck with a lot of people. Claire Murphy's an incredible storyteller who was kind enough to do a Q&A with us. I mean, a lot of us got to see her show in Alden Beeson, and it's really made an impact on everyone. So that's my shining moment, I'll say. And so, yeah, any conversations or shining moments that have stuck with you? And what would you advise people that are maybe future Cassandra people that might come into this project in the years to come? Samora, do you want to go first?
Yeah, of course. Um, yeah, it was several conversations that stuck with me because it was quite of a vibe that changed my perspective on storytelling. Because I have a theater background, and first I rolled into storytelling. I really felt like it's cool, but it's not really what I want. So it felt a bit like a plan B. And in the years, I felt more in love with storytelling, but especially at Aldebisa, where we first met and had conversations with already bigger storytellers, it really came clear to me that like it's very different than the theater world. Like the storytelling world is very inviting. You can share stories and you're interested in each other and try to find a network or um, yeah, other things for other people to help them. Like you're doing it more together. Maybe it's also because what Dan says that we all feel like there's not much of us, so we have to do it together. And in the theater world, it's like you pull each other down on the hairs upwards the ladder, you know what I mean? So it's not very welcoming. So that's something that felt really good for me and that stuck. Um, and for me, the shining moment would have been in Amsterdam, doing it for real, the performance where we all worked towards. That was very special for me. And what was your, oh, yeah, what I want to say to the future Cassandras. Um, yeah, what I did this time, I'm very bad at planning and starting in time normally. And I was very hyped about this project. So my mentor asked me, like Rory de Groot, shout out Rory, but he asked me how I wanted to step into this project. And I said to him that I want to start really early. So we started it like immediately after Belgium. And we had like every month deadlines and meetups where we worked together. So I didn't feel like really pressured to get everything out on paper in once. But yeah, we had a lot of conversations and I really got to the core of what I wanted to tell in not a hurry, annoying way, you know. So that was really nice to feel. And after the end of this project, after Amsterdam, I really felt that I got everything out of it. I gave my all. And that's a good feeling.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I would recommend that. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess I should say we all met in Belgium and Aldenbiesen at their storytelling festival in a beautiful castle, and then we
It
went
was
back.
amazing.
It was so amazing, and then we all went back to our home countries for a few months, and then came back together in Amsterdam to perform the pieces that had been created. Hannah, what about you? What are your sort of shining memories, and what advice would you give?
I mean, it's always very fun and giving, I'd say, to be part of a community growing. And I believe really like we've managed to also as participants to be that community for each other. I think that's been really nice to be a part of. So it's quite hard to pick and choose like a few moments because it's been like all of the conversations. It's been just all of us helping each other to do our best and be part of each other's processes. It's been really, really nice. Advice for new Cassandra participants, I say like take advantage of the resources that are accessible. Taking it, it's not really taking advantage of when it's offered to you, right? So, but yeah, be comfortable with asking for advice and for help, and also offering when it feels right. Because also just I think it's quite important that we remind ourselves that we're also resources. So
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's what I want to say for now.
It's very wise.
Probably a lot else I would like to say, but I can't. My brain isn't functioning like 100% at this moment, so I'll stop there.
That was very, very wise, I thought. And Jeffrey, have you got anything to add?
I've spent the past 5 minutes in silence going, okay, so which specific moment am I going to select? I think in general, just discovering storytelling and this world was eye-opening for me. It put a name to something that I knew I loved, that I had already been playing with without knowing that that's what it was. And it gave me a sense of belonging in the art world, which was very, very nice and very lovely. I think a moment that stands out was Aldenbiesen as a whole, but like if I go into that, we'll be here till tomorrow. But I think in Amsterdam, when I got paired together with Winter and Simon, that collaboration was so beautiful and fun and touching. And it was this moment where three storytellers got to kind of connect their hearts to each other and go, how do we make an evening with the three of us do justice to our individual pieces, but still stand as a whole? And it was just a really beautiful process to step into with them. And props to them for being with me on that, because I really loved it. And my advice to like new Cassandrians, scrap that, that's not a real word.
No, we're keeping it at the Cassandrians.
Is that you I think we forget as artists that we have a lot of agency. And we tend to see ourselves as like, okay, I need to just deliver a story or just deliver output, but we forget that we are able to do what we need to do. How do you say this? We forget that we are able to make decisions, and we forget that we are able to take charge of what that process should look like for us. And if we don't know what it should look like, that we can explore what that process could be. So my tip to the new Cassandrians is take charge. Do what you need to do to make your story happen. Do what you need to do to stand on stage. Do what you need to do to get any information to write your story. And don't wait for someone. And don't let anybody tell you that there's a wrong way or a right way. Do what works for you. And if you don't know what works for you, just try stuff.
Yes, totally agree. Yeah, no, we're snapping. That was great. And Mia.
Yes, so one of the greatest moments I felt like was in Alden Beeson when we had a Kaylee,
Oh yeah.
and it was such an amazing moment to just sit there with a lot of young storytellers that you have just met for the first time, but also seeing a lot of the more professional storytellers sitting there with us, listening to our stories, and they sharing other stories as well. It was just an incredible moment that really shows how great the storytelling community is. And also we have had such great conversations with
Yeah.
a lot of both young storytellers and mentors and professional storytellers. And for me, one of all these great conversations is one with you, Shona. I have had really a big moment of self-doubt in Alden Beeson because I came in this project and had been doing storytelling, and when I got there, I was like, oh shit, I don't know who I am as a storyteller because I don't know if I really know what storytelling is anymore. And you put me back on the ground and telling me like, well, I think I know who you are as a storyteller. And that was a great moment for me to bring me back from my self-doubt.
Oh,
And
yeah, that's so good. Yeah.
yeah, so for every future Cassandra participant is just take in those amazing moments with all these great people you will have around you and ask a lot of questions and talk to people because you are creating your own network now,
Yeah.
and they will give you great advice and people to work with in the future. So just talk to people. They
Mm.
are amazing.
You guys are so wise. Dan, is there anything you want to add?
Yeah, sure. I actually have two moments when it all came together that
Mm.
really stood out for me. One practically that I talked with another mentor, and she just gave me so much feedback that it just all of my mistakes and all of the flaws in my performance actually just were hashed out in
Mm.
one meeting, and that was so nice. And the other moment was during the story fight nights, and that was when I just had the most fun that I could have telling stories. It was so amazing. So those were the two moments that really stuck out for me. Really amazing. My advice for future Cassandrians would be that don't forget to be grateful and take advantage and use everyone and everything you have because this is really a really big opportunity and try things out. I'm just like picking what you said already, but it really stuck out to me too because I've spent months just researching the escort industry and talking with escorts and just trying to get into contact with more escorts to then just not use any of the information that I have, just not use one single bit. So in the end, it's just about exploring things, just about thinking how does the story relate to me? Why do I want to tell this story? Is it important? Why does it need to get out there? Just ask yourself the big questions, go on to explore and find out what is yours.
Oh man, yeah, that was really, really interesting. Guys, thank you so much. Samora, Hannah, Jeffrey, Mia, Dan, thank you so much for taking some time to talk about this. It was a really interesting conversation that I think a lot of people will like to hear. So thank you. And well, I mean, good luck for the next stages. We've got some international festivals coming up that people will be performing at, and everybody's going to be in Rome for the Fest conference in June. So I just can't wait to see what happens when like your energy, this like new network joins a network that exists already, and then what's going to happen. It's going to be really beautiful. Oh, Jeffrey's celebrating. But I think that's all. I think we can say goodbye and good evening and get nice and warm and stay out of the dark, wintry nights across Europe. Goodbye, guys. Thanks so much.